Alright, let's dive into something that's been making waves in the global markets recently. And no, I'm not talking about the latest meme stock craze. This time, it's all about oil prices and a geopolitical move that has everyone on edge. So, here's the deal. Oil prices just jumped after Iran published a draft plan with some pretty restrictive conditions for ship traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let me ask you this. Have you ever thought about how a single waterway can hold so much power over the global economy? Personally, I think this is one of those moments where geopolitics and economics collide in the most fascinating way. Now, let's break it down. The Strait of Hormuz is this narrow waterway between Iran and Oman, and it's a lifeline for global oil markets. About 20% of the world's oil supply passes through it every day. So, when Iran starts talking about restricting access, the markets sit up and take notice. Brent crude, the international benchmark, shot up about 4% to $82.72 per barrel, and US West Texas Intermediate followed suit with a 3.5% jump to $77.83. What makes this really interesting is that just earlier this week, prices had fallen by about 8% after some optimistic talks from the US about increasing traffic through the strait. So, this sudden reversal is a big deal. Here's where it gets even more intriguing. The draft plan published by Iran's state news agency Fars is pretty bold. It proposes banning US and Israeli ships from transiting the strait outright. Other nations that Iran feels have wronged it would also face restrictions unless they pay compensation. And get this, Tehran wants to impose penalties on violators equivalent to 20% of the value of the cargo on board. From my perspective, this feels like Iran is flexing its muscles, reminding the world just how much leverage it has over this critical choke point. But what many people don't realize is that this isn't just about oil prices, it's about global power dynamics and the delicate balance of international relations. Now, let's zoom out for a second. If you take a step back and think about it, this raises a deeper question. How vulnerable are we to disruptions in these key global trade routes? The Strait of Hormuz isn't the only choke point out there, but it's certainly one of the most critical. And Iran's move here is a stark reminder of how easily things can get messy. I mean, just look at the incident reported by the UK Maritime Trade Operations Centre. A tanker heard 2 explosions off the coast of Oman while transiting the strait. Thankfully, the crew and vessel are safe, but it's a wake-up call. What this really suggests is that even small incidents can have massive ripple effects. And let's not forget the broader context. Iran's Houthi allies in Yemen have been making headlines too, claiming attacks on Saudi Arabian troop concentrations and a Saudi tanker in the Red Sea. It's all connected, isn't it? Personally, I think this is part of a larger strategy by Iran to assert its influence in the region. But here's the thing, while Iran might see this as a way to gain leverage, it's also playing with fire. The global economy is already on shaky ground, and any disruption to oil supplies could send shockwaves through markets worldwide. One thing that immediately stands out is how quickly things can escalate when you're dealing with such a volatile mix of politics and economics. So, where does this leave us? Well, the draft plan is still under review by an Iranian parliamentary committee, so it's not set in stone yet. But even the threat of these restrictions is enough to rattle markets. In my opinion, this is a moment where diplomacy needs to step in, and fast. Because if tensions keep rising, we could be looking at a scenario where everyone loses. What makes this situation so fascinating, though, is how it forces us to confront the fragility of our global systems. We often take for granted how smoothly things run, but moments like this remind us just how interconnected and vulnerable we all are. As we wrap up, I'll leave you with this thought. How do we balance national interests with the stability of the global economy? It's a question that doesn't have an easy answer, but it's one we need to keep asking. Because the next time something like this happens, and let's be honest, it's not a matter of if, but when, we need to be ready. So, what do you think? Is Iran's move a calculated risk or a dangerous gamble? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious and keep questioning the world around you.